Yeah. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Ja. Aber die haben ihre Mikrofone ausgemacht.
I can hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Murat.
Ah, who is this? Okay, and we have Glen. Hi, again, you are here.
Hi, I'm here. I've never left. I'm just here all 24 hours a day, sitting in front of this thing.
24 hours. And Francesco, I know this room already.
Yeah.
Not
I can imagine.
Yeah. So, Glen, your microphone is less strong than the others.
It needs to be stronger? Yes.
If it's possible.
How is that? Is that better? I can raise the level.
Yes.
Is that better?
For example, compared to Francesco.
Okay, let me see.
Let's see. I can talk. See, my voice is too loud or too slow, too soft. Is good.
Oder soll Francesco leiser machen? Maybe Francesco, you can turn a little bit down.
Yes.
Volume, so that we have a balance. Okay.
Benim sesim geliyor mu abi? Normal mi?
Senin ses biraz açabilir misin?
Ha, bir dakika dur bakayım. Nasıl
Biraz.
oluyor? Açtım. Sonunda şu anda.
Tamam, okey, okey.
Aha. En sonunda. Francesca, Allah Allah. Bilem, büyük baba, büyük. I love you üstad, I love you üstad. Glenvelez üstad. Maşallah ya. Vay be. Allah
How is
Allah.
it? How is my volume now? Is it better?
Perfect.
It's okay? Okay.
Yes. How is my volume for you?
It's perfect. Perfect.
And Salim. Salim.
Salim, yes. Not Salim.
I only see your name.
Hı-hı. My Francesca, my new instrument.
Hey,
Nice.
Üstad,
Nee, warte mal.
o practice instrument.
hey, good evening.
Wer ist das?
Salim?
Achso, das
Yes, yes, it's me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's me. Yeah. Yes.
You look.
Good evening. Good evening.
Ist da.
Okay.
So. Okay, and
Perfect. Yeah, so slowly we come together.
Yes.
Hi, Salim.
Hi, Francesco.
Hi, Salim.
Hi, Glen. How are you?
How are you? Good.
Yeah, very
Merhaba,
nice.
selamünaleyküm ve rahmetullah Salim abi.
Selamu alaikum, Berkan abi.
Evet abi.
Nice. So I think we know each other, right?
Yes, we play together.
Yes, of course.
Together last year in Tamburi Mundi.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it was very nice.
So we know it, but I think the others maybe not. The others, I mean, our visitors who came tonight to listen to our conversation. So we know each other from the last Tamburi Mundi in Frieburg. We met each other there. Here we had a nice time, really talking together, making music together, and discussing together. And it's really nice to see you here again together. And welcome to the others, all of you. Hello, all the participants of this evening. And so we have every night, we have one topic we start talking about, and we will see where we will go with this talking. And so for tonight, the topic is general composing, and but yes, so composing, ideas for composing structures, or yes, how you compose individually, how is your approach, and what is the main idea for your composition, or maybe you have different ideas, different approaches. What is, where is the limit? Oh no, not the limit. When it starts improvisation, and when is the improvisation composition, and also the balance between improvised parts and composed parts. And so I try to invite you for this evening because I think you are from different musical backgrounds, from different traditions, and so I was thinking maybe that could be interesting to get inspirations of you, from you, new ideas that we can share together, and see maybe inspired and change our way of composing maybe. So I will start to introduce on my left side. So I know you have a different screen, but on my left side here, I see Glen. You are in New Jersey at the moment, right?
I'm in New Jersey, yes.
Hi. And you just had lunch or something?
No, I just finished the class.
Oh, okay, working.
Yes, working hard.
So, okay. And then I continue with Berkant Çakıcı. You are in Izmir, in Turkey, right? It is night time and it's time to go to sleep, I think. But thank you that you are still here. And you are, yes, come from a tradition of darbuka and frame drum playing, of classical Turkish music, but you developed also your own ideas, and we can talk later about more details. And also you went to Russia, and this is maybe also something interesting, how you get maybe influences from there. Then I have here on that side, I have Salim. Hi, Salim. So we are very close because Salim
Yes.
is in Strasbourg and this is close to Freiburg. So it's 90
Yeah.
kilometers.
Yes.
And
It's only 1 hour and a half by car.
it's nothing, yeah.
Yes.
And Salim, you're originally you're from Algeria, right?
Right.
But you live many years already in France, and so this is also, I think, very interesting aspect, right? To see someone in tradition and goes to a Western country, how you developed your music. By the way, you will come to Freiburg and make concerts. I'm really happy, live concerts. And then I go in that direction. I have Francesco Magaro, and also Francesco, you are from Italy, right?
Right?
and we know since many, many years. And you studied piano, and then you learned, you went very deep in frame drumming. And for me, it was very interesting because you came from a melodical instrument, nothing to do with percussion. And then you went into this percussion world. So that was for me very interesting, how you develop ideas for composing. So this was a short introduction. And yes, so I would like to open the conversation session. By the way, Berkant is not speaking very good English, so I will help him to translate, okay? Just for your information. And
Yeah. Understand, literally.
very good, understand, perfect. Okay, very good. Okay, so who would like to start our conversation about composition? Francesco, you want
Me, for me, Glen should start, as I say.
Okay, we start here.
Okay, thank you, Francesco.
If you agree.
I will start.
It's a matter of respect. I think that you should.
Okay, well, I'll start and talk about my journey into composition. Of course, I started out studying Western classical percussion, so I was around that way of looking at composition. And then I was always very interested in improvisation, but I didn't have any outlet for that for many years. As soon as I started to play frame drum, the aspect of improvisation became more and more important, because it's just naturally something that happens very readily with these kind of drums. The other way that I entered kind of the world of composition was wanting to play with other people on the drums, on the frame drums. So the only way to do that was to just kind of start creating some pieces that were purely drumming material and find out, well, what are the ways that the drums could interact in an interesting way and in a fun way. Okay, so I started to write these pieces that were just frame drumming. The earliest one was called Internal Combustion. Internal Combustion was originally a duet, and this was the period all the way back in the early 80s, around 1980, when I was working with Lane Redmond, and we were playing two drums, and I just started to explore what is possible with two frame drums. And the ideas were mainly that I was attracted to. I played all during that period from 1975 to the late 80s. I was playing with Steve Reich. So that really influenced my early experiments with composition, because I was hearing what Steve was doing with the way that he was incorporating some Balinese or gamelan ideas, some African ideas, some ideas from African drumming. So those were two big inspirations for him in terms of percussion writing. So one of the things that I started to incorporate pretty quickly was the idea of displacement. Taking one rhythm, could be, like taking a 5-beat rhythm, so it has a doom on one of the 5 notes, and then just displacing that and having someone else play the same material but just start it on a different beat. So a very quite simple idea, but in the world of frame drum, because the low notes are so prominent and so distinctive and so evocative, when you heard two notes displaced that are two low notes, you really hear a clear melody, and you really hear immediately this low and high relationship, and it really makes the drumming enter a world of melody. So you really feel that. And as I got more and more into that, I really thought of the drumming as melodic material. The doom and the tak and the pa and the different sounds that you can make, that this high and low areas were just like melody in the sense of, a low note and a high note, etc. So not only from the rhythmic standpoint of this displacement, but also from the standpoint of where the low notes were and how they come out and how they make a melody. So that was the early ideas that I was using to compose. The other thing that had a big influence on me was when I started to study the South Indian drumming, there was vocalizations, the drum language. And the drum language for me was very transformative because it allowed my voice to become a part of the experience. So, I had already learned a little bit about the Arabic way of doom, taka taka doom, etc., singing the dooms and the taks. But the South Indians just had a bigger vocabulary that utilized in the context of how you interpret rhythms through your voice. And so that also had a big impact because it really stimulated my imagination about what kind of things emerge out of the drumming rhythms. And one of that aspect was seeing one hand, like seeing the right hand. You're playing a more complex rhythm, like. So if you're just seeing what the right hand is doing, doom ba da, doom ba da, doom ba da, doom ba da, doom ba da, doom ba da, or seeing the left hand, da da da da da da da da da da da da. Those are like, from my perspective, they were like melodies that were inside the rhythm. So the whole rhythm, the composite, was all the notes, the 5 notes. But inside that were these internal rhythms or internal melodies, you could call them too. And that also was very stimulating for me to say, oh, well, maybe I'll put some pitches to those left hand notes, and then there's a very syncopated internal rhythm. And so a lot of the melodies that I started to hear and come up with were based on listening to the right hand, listening to the left hand after creating a rhythm and seeing what emerged out of it. Another aspect was from the South Indian idea of the pulsations, and I took those rhythm constructions, like just the takadimi and the takatakita, takadimi takita, etc., all those ideas, and use those as a format to underline the rhythms. So, going slow, also this idea of slow and fast and the relationship and how stimulating that is to get this relationship between something that's going slow and something that's going fast, and then synchronizing them. So if you have this 5 and then you have the relationship of one syllable to the notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but tadiginatum, you could say, or takatakita, takita, takatakita, takatakita, takatakita. If you slow that down halfway, takatakita, katakita, takatakita, that slow pulse becomes another dimension to the way you can hear the rhythm, and you can slow it down even more. Ta, ka, ta, ki, ta, ta, also was very stimulating in terms of feeling a slow pulse like that. It's almost like a bass line could go along with the quicker notes that are going on. But it all led back to synchronizing everything, and that was, very stimulating. So all these ideas just came up from the learning about the Arabic drumming, learning about the South Indian drumming, being influenced by Steve Reich's material, the way he was manipulating rhythm. Basically, he would just take a marimba, 10 notes on a marimba, and displace them. One person starts on 1, the other person starts on 3, the other person starts on 4 and 5, and out of that becomes a rich tapestry of the interrelationships just by displacement. So, that was a big influence on me. Another influence, I can go on like this for a while, so just tell me when you say, okay, that's enough, Glen. Okay, another aspect was the visual. And I talked about this, when we were talking about the ancient connection with the frame drum. Looking at the ancient depictions, and I even experienced this today in the class, because I finally figured out how to share the screen so I could put the some of these old visual representations up on the screen. And there's a beautiful one that we were looking at that's Eros, the winged goddess of love from the ancient Greek vases. Very beautiful, and he's playing the frame drum. He's flying around and playing the frame drum. So just looking at that, and then we created some rhythms, and I was immediately aware that the influence of that visual representation was making me create certain kinds of rhythms. And for me, that was very, very important, very powerful, and very immediate. I look at these images of the players, watch them, and they're frozen. They're frozen in the middle of the act of playing their dooms and talks. But you look at them, and we're all spending our life looking at other players and looking at ourselves play, and so it's very easy to imagine what the sound is and what the next stroke is and what kind of movements are going on during that process. And so when I see those ancient depictions, they really stimulate a feeling of, maybe I'll create something that relates to the way that the way the visuals look. And it's so evocative because the paintings are so beautiful. You could use that from any period when you have this people playing frame drum and they're being represented in that act of playing. So that's another aspect of it. Another aspect is the idea of conversation. So when I create one rhythm, I will try to create immediately another rhythm that is in conversation with the first rhythm, so that there's this connection and stimulation between the rhythms. And that's an idea that stuck with me, all through my composing, because I like this idea that one thing will influence another thing and they'll coexist and interact in an interesting way. So one kind of stimulates the other. And so that's various ways that I'm using different ideas to influence what I create with the frame drums. Is that good? Okay.
Right, but you can continue if you want.
Okay, I'll take a little. Yeah. So you got these contrasts. You've got the different displacements. You've got the left and right hand melodic inspiration. The other thing that relates to the vocalizations is that when the breath gets involved in the process and in the integration of rhythms, I think that it really stimulates our creative impulse. So for me, that's what happens when I start to vocalize and vocalize what I'm playing, vocalize the right hand, vocalize the left hand, doing the overtone singing. All of those things are synchronizing my breathing. And that synchronizing, for me, and I think it's it's probably the case for many people, that is very stimulating to the creative impulse, because the voice, our voice is one of our main outlets for expressing ourselves. And so when we stimulate the voice, we stimulate this creative outlet that we're very familiar with and we're very attuned to and we're very open to already because of language and because that aspect is important. Now, the other thing that the voice influences, obviously, is our body and the flow of energy through our body. And when that happens, that's also a big stimulant to the creativity. And what happened for me was, and it's something you see in all the ancient depictions, is the movement of the body. That, there's a lot of dancing, there's a lot of physical expression of the way the rhythm is flowing. And you can see that in the old representations. So that got me to wanting to have some kind of physicality to it beyond just what's going on in the upper body. And so I started to do the stepping, having the slow stepping going on while you're doing various rhythms, and have the slow fast relationship again be a big part of the way that you're feeling the rhythm and the polyrhythmic aspect of it. That's another quality that when I'm doing the vocalizations, it adds a feeling of polyrhythm to whatever's going on, because I might be singing a slow pulse while I'm playing a fast rhythm, and that polyrhythm and the synchronization, that's also very stimulating, not only to the voice, but to the body. It makes you want to move. And, it's one of the things that I was really missing in my early training with the classical percussion, because that is so formal way of playing, and you keep your body quite still. So the idea that body movement could be a big part of the experience of playing, that was important for me. And for the frame drum, of course, it's very readily, because of the type of drum it is, it's small, you can move around, and I'm sure that's one of the things that attracted me to it, and it's very stimulating. Okay, I ran out of words.
I think you can give much more ideas, but maybe we can have a rest. You can drink something.
Yes, I'll drink something.
Maybe you have your nana tea. I know you like nana tea, mint tea.
Mint, yeah.
Yeah.
Good, absolutely.
Okay, so who would like to join the ideas of Glen and continue, or talk about your ideas? Salim? Okay.
So good evening, guys, again, and good evening. Thank you, Murat, to bring us together tonight. So it's very nice. I hope that you can hear me correctly now. Okay, thank you. So I just would like to start with something very not special, but I mean my first impressive musical shock or rhythmical shock when I was a child. And I think that this first musical shock was coming from my mother. I still remember now when she used to prepare to us a very traditional Algerian bread on a huge plate made of clay. So it was round like a frame drums, and she used to make bread like this. And she used to make a movement, a cycle. And this cycle, and I remember still now very clearly, I used to sit in front of her to watch her and to watch the way she was preparing for us bread. And I think that this moment was it was a shock, because I realized that she's, of course, she was preparing bread for us, but she was also, let's say, playing a kind of rhythm, a kind of cycle. So it was, I think, my first impressive, my first rhythmical shock. And I think in the future, I will try to make a composition based on this movement. I mean, and also the movement of making the bread is universal. It's something that you find in many places. I think the first, my second influence is my elder brother, because he is also a musician, but of course, he is not a percussionist. He don't play frame drums. He don't play percussions. He play guitar. I mean, electric guitar. He was a blues player. So it was very nice for me, because he taught me a lot in music, and he gave me very good notions of melody and music. So for me, until now, it's very important, the possibility to incorporate melody in rhythms. For me, it's difficult to make the difference between rhythm and melody. For me, it's the same thing. It's like a coin. One face is the melody, and the other face is the rhythm. For me, the rhythm and melody, it's almost the same thing. So the second influence, I think, is maybe my elder brother, because he taught me a lot, and he used to make me try to learn by heart solos. I remember when I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, trying to learn by heart the solos of Pink Floyd, for example, because my brother was a big fan of Pink Floyd. So I really grew up in, of course, in a family of where we used to listen to Algerian music, Arabic music, North African music. Of course, I have a big background from this tradition, but also, and it was a chance, we used to listen really to many different kinds of music. So we learn how to be able to switch from one style to another very quickly, very easily, and most of all in a very natural way. Because until now, for me, it's very natural to be able to listen to a tune, a piece of Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin, and 1 minute after, I can listen to a piece of Kulthum, for example, the famous Egyptian diva singer. So I think this is the second influence. Of course, so this is the influence of my family, my tradition, my background. And I want to join Glen when he talk about polyrhythms, because I'm very influenced by polyrhythms, because we have a great traditions of polyrhythms. And now more and more, with time, I want to involve myself more and more in polyrhythms. So this is also a very big influence in my music, in the way I compose. So I'm a percussionist. I play percussions, of course, but I also play melodic instruments. So it's also a big influence on me, the way I compose, the way I think the music, the way I think the rhythm. So sometimes I have two main, let's say, approach. I have many, but to go fast, I have two main approach when I compose pieces. I can start from the rhythm. I can have an idea from the rhythm. And then from the rhythm, I try to bring melody and to compose something from the rhythm. So I start from the rhythm to go to the melody. And sometimes it's the opposite. I start from the melody, and from the melody, I go to the rhythm. So these are the two main approach I have when I compose music, I think. So for me, rhythms without melody, it's very difficult to understand. Of course, sometimes I compose pieces exclusively for for percussions, but for me, percussions rhythm it's about melody. So it's difficult for me to think rhythm without thinking the melody. So yes. So what could I add? Many things, but I prefer now to let someone else speak if he wants.
Okay, thank you, Salim.
Thank you.
So for my, to be clear for me, so Glen is like building a house, very structured. You have these ideas, right, Glen? You have the Steve Reich, the patterns, they go inside. You work really structured, like building a house, like an architect. It seems like this. And as I understood, Salim, you are more focused on melody and rhythm. So, and so we can go on maybe with the melodical idea, because as I told before, Francesco is a pianist. He studied piano and I think composition also, or no?
Well, something, but nothing that is good to listen to. Yeah, as you said, I studied piano. I come from piano, from classical piano. So I started to play piano when I was very young, 4 years old. And I finished the conservatory. So I went to an end with the classical studies. So I come from there. And then I start to study directly tamburello first, and then the other frame drums. I completely fall in love with this world. Discovering another planet, or maybe the dark side of the same planet. I mean, because when you study classical music, you are very focused on something. And sometimes it happens that you don't know that there is a world of musical things that simply you ignore. And this was for me. So I come from there, and then I have to say that in the beginning, my shape of mind coming from the classical studies was good in a way, because it helped me to understand quickly the rhythmical shapes, or the structures of the frame drum world. But in another way, it was a limit, because I was very, how can I say, I was very structured in that kind of music. So everything I played, I wanted to put in a pentagram, every idea, everything. And so at a certain point, while studying frame drums, I had to deconstruct myself and rebuild myself. Then, after a while of practicing, the two words again unified. And then what first was a limit, then found another way of expression. I tell this because this is my story, and this is for me it was a completely discovery of new things. And about composing, well, I have to say that yes, I played piano, so piano is a melody instrument, but indeed there is a percussion instrument. So technically. I study percussion. But this is a joke, but not so much, because after going deeper, also analyzing music and composition and composing myself, I can say that as for example Kurt Sachs says, that shape and rhythm organize melody. So the most important thing before melody is the rhythm, but not because the rhythm is melody, as Salim said, as Glen said, but because the rhythm has an extra musical origin. It's not about music. Rhythm is inside the man, before the music, the melody, because of the movement and because of what Salim was saying about her mother preparing the bread. She was playing some kind of what we recognize as rhythm, which is repetition of something in... Yes, Salim, please.
Yeah, and I can tell you that it was a kind of odd rhythm.
Okay, maybe, yes.
It was something like ta ta ta.
Yeah.
Ta, ta.
Maybe, and I can add, concluding my thought is about this, so that melody is organized by rhythm, and when we think when we think to a composition, we think to the rhythmic structure of the composition, and then about the diastematic, the melody, I mean the tunes, okay. But before, what makes the difference is this. Why? Also because, as Salim said, all the traditional music of the world are connected to the human activities. So all the odd, let's say, I am generalizing, but we can say that all the odd rhythms, or all the patterns we know, they come from some human activity which is not connected to the music directly. It's functional. After it becomes music. And so the bread prepared by the mother of Salim was a human activity which generates music, and music helped men to do this activity. They do music and they sing and they play while doing these activities, which is working on the field or on the mines. This is music. The most a lot of music that we listen to, composed music, written music, takes inspiration from this. I don't know if I have to continue, or maybe Berkant, Murat, tell me. Go on, continue. Okay. So about composing, which is the topic of today, I was always influenced by okay, let's say that I discovered that what you said, what Salim and Glen said about the Carnatic music, Glen, and the melody and rhythm, Salim, is an Occidental convention. Let's say that rhythm and melody are music. As we know, South Indian musicians, they consider the conical and the Carnatic instruments, talas and stuff like that, like melody. It's melody. It's not. It's just play. It's like play violin or ney or bansuri. In fact, the player of ney, of bansuri and violin, they think with conical. They think melody with the conical structures. So it's connected. Same thing, like the kanjira players. So the distinction and the separation between rhythm and melody is an Occidental convention, which had happened more or less in the 17th, 18th century. It's a romantic thing. And me, for example, as an Occidental dude, I grew up with just drum set keeping the rhythm. It was just like that. It's not music. It's just drum set keeping the rhythm. So this was the reason because why I found so interesting to do something with frame drums, because they connected what I studied with piano with another kind of language, which was melody, which not separated. Okay, it's metronome and then there is a piano, drum set, piano. No, it's something that goes together. But for the analyzing the composing forms, the Occidental or classical way of analyzing forms or forms is very important to me. Why? Because it explains how the music works. So you can decide if follow it or not, and of course you can break all the rules as a lot of composers did, from the Renaissance music to the Seconda Pratica, Monteverdi, and then again in the 17th century, and then Debussy, and then Schoenberg, and then John Cage. Oh, Andrea is telling something. Yes. We could consider the invention of continuo like the beginning of separation between rhythm and melody. Yes, correct. Correct, perfectly correct. And in fact, this, thank you, Andrea, because this gives me the thing to talk about another pattern or shape which is very important in the composition, because why we compose and for who we compose. No? I mean, we compose because something is inside us, and we give some shape to this something, and we hope that this shape could in some way arrive to the people. So we try to move something in that people, and there are some structure to do this. And for example, what Andrea told about basso continuo or ostinato is a pattern, because people doesn't accept what doesn't understand. So you have to be sure or to try to give some communication which your audience could understand and recognize. Imitation, repetition of something, variation of the same thing helps this aim. And for example, the basso continuo, and for the basso continuo, for example, the follia, in the Baroque or in the Baroque period, the follia shape, which is a tetrachord repeated and repeated again upon, and then upon there is a melody, had a lot of success because the people could recognize it and understand. So what is the thing? That it's always a matter of tension and relaxation about, for example, modulation, and also in drums. We can do modulation with metric modulation, for example. Go far or go near and then come back. Then play with dynamics, so very forte, very piano. When we compose something very forte, we want to affect people in some way, and then with the piano we want to make them closer. And then what Glen said is a conversation, is question and answer, because I mean, there are many studies, but I think that of course music is a kind of language, and of course is a way of understanding some sounds messages, like languages. So we can say that we can be understood if we talk good, and if people is aware, is able to understand, like languages, like when we talk. Okay, I can go on, but maybe Berkant it's good to.
Thank you, Francesco. Yes, it was a totally different approach, different aspects you brought here in the in our meeting. And yes, I could understand your background, also your musical background, and thank you. So we would like to listen to Berkant. I told you already before, his background is totally different. And Berkant, what is your idea? How do you compose, or what ideas do you have when you compose? Mikrofonunu açman lazım. Yeah.
Evet. Şimdi geliyor mu?
Geliyor. Süper.
Evet. Şimdi güzel geliyor. Tabii ben şimdi bu anlatacaklarımın hepsi İngilizce anlatamam. Çünkü o kadar iyi bilmiyorum. Anladığım kadarıyla nelerden etkileniyorum ya da ne zaman başladım, kendi kompozisyonlarımı üretmeye ne zaman karar verdim gibi şeyler anlatmam gerekiyor.
Evet ve kompozisyon yani ya şekli var mı yani senin düşündüğün, yani bir kompozisyon formu var mı senin, veya kalıplar olsun, nasıl çalışıyorsun onun filan?
Evet. Şimdi tabii ben yaşadığım ülke itibariyle benim ülkemin müziği çok kurallara sahip. Yani çok katı değil de kuralları olan bir musiki. Tabii ki bu bizim müziğimizde beni etkilendiren en çok şey, hem makamdan makama geçişlerde hem de ritimlerden başka ritimlere geçişlerde mutlak bir köprü kullanılmalı. Yani mesela birbirine benzemez iki ritimden birbirine geçmek o kadar basit değil.
Evet.
Daha doğrusu o araya bir köprü koymadan asla oraya mesela dum tak tak dum tak tak dum dum tak dum, buraya hemen olmaz bu yani. Zaten olmadı da zaten. Yani melodi olarak da oturmaz üzerine. Dum.
Evet. Kısaca so Berkant explains a little bit the Turkish music. The Turkish music has also strict rules, and so for example, if you cannot go from one makam directly to the other. There are certain rules, musical tastes, or really rules that you have to follow. Also, the same thing is with the rhythm. So you cannot change one rhythm to the other from the Turkish music, right?
Aha. Önce tabii ben bu gençlik yıllarında tabii böyle çok üzerine düşmediğim için ben bunun farkında değildim. Yani bu aslında çok önemli bir kuralmış ve bize kompozisyon yazdıran, yani bağımsız free kompozisyonlar yazdıran aslında o köprülermiş bize yani. Çünkü nereden nereye geçersek yeni bir oluşum görüyorsun geçtiğin yerde. Mesela 7 zamanlı bir şey çalarken oraya minicik bir köprü kurup başka bir ona benzer yine 3 zamanlı içinde olan bir şeye geçerken kendiliğinden bir kompozisyon oluşuyormuş. Tabii biz bunun çok sonra farkına vardım. Yani.
So he said the freedom that he gets was from the modern music in Turkey, not from the classical music or traditional music, but the modern music, like pop music, gives musicians more freedom, because here you can really follow other rules and follow your ideas, your own instinct also, and try something that you would maybe not try in the traditional way.
Hatta bugün dersimizde de kullandık, hatırlarsan dum tak dum tak tak dum tak dum tak tak tak tak tak tak dum tak dum. Sonuna böyle minicik bir köprü kurarak yahut da oradan yine 9'a devam etmezsin. Dum tak tak dum tak tak tak tak dum tak tak dum. Aynı bu metronom içinde yine içinde trigonik üçlemelerin olduğu herhangi bir ritme yeniden buradan geçebiliriz. Bu tabii Ben en çok bunlardan etkilendim.
One more.
Sonra
Explain, sorry.
tamam.
In the lesson before, we had a group meeting and the class, and we were working on 9/8 in Turkish music, and he explained how we can go from the 9/8 to another to use, for example, ta ta, 1, 2, 3. Use certain elements and use them to build a bridge to another meter, for example. So.
Sonra ben bir süre bu devlete bağlı bir okul değildi ama bir nasıl diyeyim halkın kendi arasında kurduğu bir Sufi okulunda okudum bir süre. Yani Sufi dershanesinde okudum diyeyim. Orada tabii semazenler sema öğrendiler. Ben müzik öğrendim orada.
No, he studied in a Sufi school. So in one side there were they learned to turn the semi, and on the other side in the school they learned music, the drums. So it was a school for Sufi music and Sufi ceremonies.
Sonra o okuldayken böyle daha değişik şeyler de olduğu içinde. Şöyle hissettim. Ritimlerin gerçekten bir kalbi var. Ve onların metronom olarak yani tempo olarak bir karakterleri var. Eğer o ritmin temposundan dışarı çıkarsan o ritmin karakteri de bozuluyor. Onu öğrendim orada yani. En önemli öğrendiklerimden biri buydu.
So one of the most important things he learned there, and not only learning but also feeling, was if you change one rhythm in the tempo, so you will lose the character that you had before, but you will achieve another character. So this was very important for him in these periods. He learned a lot to feel the different characters and the different feelings the rhythms can give to him. Yeah.
Mesela bir segah peşrevi var. Genelde semazenler bununla da ayine başlayabilirler. Kısadır çünkü bu. Mesela orada aslında 28 zamanlı bir usul. Ama tabii bunu biraz daha modernleştirmişler. 8-8'liğin içine getirmişler. İstersen önce bunu söyle. Yani
He will play one example. So it is in 28, 28-8'lik mi dedin?
28 dörtlük ama tabii biraz daha modern hale getirmişler. Şimdi benim çalacağım şeklinde.
So it is traditionally it's played in 28/4, but nowadays in the modern form is in 8/8.
Evet.
So.
Benim etkilendiğim işte böyle yani bugün diğer bizim kendi dersimizde de anlattım. Bazı ritimler var gerçekten üzerine ne giydirsen yakışıyor. Mesela 9 zamanlı bizim aksak ritmimizin üzerine hangi elbiseyi giydirsen o ona yakışıyor. İster hüzünlü bir metronomda çal, ister hızlı bir metronomda çal. Her şey üzerine yakışıyor. Mesela bu segah peşrevide hani şimdi bunu biraz hızlı çalsan bu gerçekten de karakterinden çıkacak yani bu başka bir havaya bürünecek. Segah peşrevi bence karakteri bu işte. Yani ben bunlardan etkilendim ve kompozisyonlarımı da yazarken hep buna bağlı kalmaya çalıştım yani.
Okay, so that was one example. For example, he said, if you use this rhythm and this melody, also it's connected to the melody, and if you play the same thing a little faster, he says the whole mystic or the whole energy is lost. And so this is what is important for him, to have really the right tempo, for the right energy, for the right groove, you can say, or flow, the feeling. And he said there are certain rhythms. I mean, this is his. He discovered this for himself. He said there are certain rhythms. They are like universal. You can use it in slow, in fast tempo. It will, of course, it will have a different character, but it works. He said when you play this fast, there is no character, something like this, right? So it will lose, and you will have no effect. It's his feeling. And so he said this is the most important, one of the most important things when he's composing, to feel what is the energy, what is the feeling for himself. Anlatabildi mi? Anlatabildi mi?
Evet, evet.
Okay.
Şimdi aslında doğruyu söylemek gerekirse şöyle, Türkiye'de müzisyenler kendi özgün kompozisyonlarını yazarken kimse ben Türk müziğinden etkilenmedim diyemez. Çünkü bizim ritimlerimiz zaten başlı başına bir kompozisyon. Mesela küçücük bir mesela raksan usulümüz var 15 zamanlı. Bu bile başlı başına bir usul, kompozisyon zaten yani. Hani bunun için yazılmış şarkı da var. Zaten sırf bunu çalsa insan yani zaten bir kompozisyonu çalmış olur. Yani etkilenmedim diyemem. Gerçekten ben Türk müziğinden çok etkilendim yani.
Yeah.
Hatta şöyle küçük bir örnek verirsem onu yine istersen anlatsan.
Tamam, kısaca anlatayım. So he says in general in Turkish music you have these longer cycles, and so this is very typical, or the nice things he loves in the Turkish music, because he said these long cycles are already a composition, and he says you don't have to do more. So because they are inside already, they have a melody, and you don't have to put more or less. It's already has such a beauty, such an energy.
Yes. I am only ben bu kompozisyonuna sadece bir şeyler ilave ediyorum. Yani aslında beynimdekilerin içinde Türk müziği dolaştığı için ben buna sadece bir iki tane varyasyon ilave ediyorum. Mesela diyelim ki raksan çalacaksam 15 zamanlı. Türküsü de var hatta bunun acentisi. İki tane usulü, yani bir tane Türk aksağı diyoruz 5 zamanlı, demin sevgili glenvelez çaldı, bir tane de semai çalıyor 3 zamanlı 8. Sonra bunu bir devri hindi, yani 7 zamanlı ile birleştiriyoruz. 15 yıl aslında ismi birleşik usul ama ayrıca bir isim koymuşlar. İsmi raksan bunun.
So this was a rhythm in 15, right? 15/4. And so for example, he takes this rhythm and he tries to make his own variation over the rhythm without disturbing or changing the structure. But he says he likes the structure and the dooms and the taks, the positions. But he has the feeling he can do his variations. It's close to improvisation. Biraz improvizasyon gibi oluyor o zaman, değil mi? Yani doğaçlama gibi yapmış oluyorsun, ya da yanlış mı?
Hayır, doğaçlama değil. Sadece mesela bu aslında böyle bir şey var. Hani benim anlatmak istediğim şu. Bu bizim müziğimiz bizim Türkleri çok etkilemiş, müzisyenleri. Çünkü özgün düşünmeye çalışıyoruz ama bir taraftan da Türk müziği sürekli bizi etkiliyor, oradan gelen. Çünkü onlarla büyüdüğümüz için aslında yani ben ne yaparsam yapayım zaten bu melodiyi de söylemesem meydana çıkacak. gibi, yani ben melodiyi söylemesem bile kendi başına bir kompozisyon. Yani biz Avrupalılar gibi aslında çok şanslı değiliz. Avrupalıların etkilenebileceği çok müzik türü var. Bizim bir tek müziğimiz var. O bizi etkiledi sadece. Aslında kısacası bu yani.
So he says this composition is already has a beauty and is already complete, but on the other side, he says in Turkey we have only this only this kind of music, let me say, and in Europe, for example, he says the Europeans are luckier because they have different music styles and different periods, epochs, so the music could develop in also the compositions. So he says positive things, but also he says in Turkish music is on one side a little limited to one kind of music.
Ama ben tabii bundan çok memnunum. Çünkü çok kültürlü bir ülkede yaşıyorum. Ve bugün anlattığım derste de her şehrinde başka bir hava var. Başka bir müzik türü var. Ben bundan çok tabii ki memnunum. Bana göre çok zengin bir kültürün içindeyim. Müzik kültürümüz de öyle. Yani ben başka bir şeyden etkilendim diyemem. Yalan olur çünkü ben kendi musikimizden çok etkilendim. Ben bir şeyleri yazıp çizerken de oradan feyz alıyorum diye.
So he says, on the other side in Turkey we have so many cultures. It's from many traditions, and so he says he takes his inspirations from these different areas, from this traditional music, and he uses these elements always connected to songs and singing. As you heard, he's always singing when he's drumming, right? So this is also really connected together.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Bu kadar.
Bu kadar. That's it. Okay. Thank you.
Evet.
Yeah.
Ama şu var, her gün gerçekten bunun bana göre bu müzik yolculuğunun asla sonu yok. Eğer kainatta sonu olmayan tek bir yol varsa o da müziğin yolu. Mesela her gün daha yeni insanlarla tanışıyoruz. Daha yeni bir yola giriyoruz. O yüzden kuşun ötüşünden etkileniyorsun. Mesela guguk kuşları 5 zamanlı ötüyor. Guguk, bantu, bantu, guguk, guguk. Yani doğada bile ritim var.
Yeah.
O yüzden hani her gün yeni bir yola giriyoruz.
Yeah.
Bugün Glen Velez'den bir şey dinliyoruz, etkileniyoruz. Yarın Francesca'dan bir şey duyuyoruz, etkileniyoruz. Öbürsü gün Murat'tan bir şey duyuyoruz, etkileniyoruz. Kalp sürekli kapıları açık. Müziğin kalbi yani. Sürekli bizi etkiliyor, anladın mı? Yani bence sonu gelmesin zaten bu yolculuğun.
Yeah. So he says the life of a musician is like a long journey, and you get inspirations everywhere in the nature. For example, the was heißt Taube of the birds. Taube, was heißt pigeons? Pigeons. Really? Yeah. Sorry. Pigeons. They in 5 do like this. So you can hear different rhythms in the nature. Not only the nature, also he says, for example, he listened now to Glen and to Francesco, Salim. If he listens to their music, if your heart is open, you can let in all the influences and it will come in his own music. Yeah. Thank you, Berkan. Teşekkürler.
Teşekkür ederiz abi. Ben teşekkür ederim.
So if you have questions to each other, you can ask. One question that I would like to ask, for example, when I compose something, after 1 week, I have the feeling I have to change everything. I have new ideas, and then I have the feeling, wow, this is the better version. After 2 weeks, I go on stage and say, no, I don't want to play, it's boring. And at a certain point, I had the feeling, no, why I compose? Why I compose? Because I'm not happy, it's never ending. I work a lot, and at the end, I have the feeling, oh, I can play anything. So what do you think about this? Are you sometimes at a certain point where you say, okay, I composed, I have good ideas, but at the end it's better maybe to go with these ideas on stage and make a kind of improvisation. Say, okay, I have the materials and I know it by heart, so I want to play free, and I want to create maybe directly on stage a new composition with the material I already have. Yeah. Yeah, Salim, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. For me, composing, of course, you have the opportunity to be influenced by many things. Music, life, birds, pigeons, fish, sea. But I am very also influenced by writers, novelists, because I know that when you have to compose something, it's like building a house. Really, you have foundation, then you have to build the walls, then you will have the roof, and then after that you will go inside of the house and you will try to finish the house. When you build a house, you have to build it from the beginning until the end. And you know how this house will be when you will finish it. So for me, composing, it's just like building a house. It takes time. You know when you get something, you feel it. Me, for example, I know when I get something. I say, okay, Salim, you get something. Okay, but this is the first flow. Like anyone, when I compose, I have a flow, like water. It's okay. Then this flow stop. And then with this first element, this first brief, I try and I start to build my house until this house will be finished. And after, when this house is finished, this composition is finished, I give you the key and I tell you, now you have the keys of the house, go inside the house, enjoy, visit my house, and take as much time as you want. And when you will finish, you will go out. So when you compose, you have feelings. You know really when you get something nice, of course, but it's not enough. It's like improvising. You know when it's good or when it's bad. And after, you have to finish this composition. And sometimes it takes time because of many reasons. So, but really for me, it's really like building a house. That's why also I'm very influenced by novelists, writers, and also composers, especially composers who are composing for classical music. And sometimes I have the chance to play with these kinds of composer, and I really know what does it mean to compose something. It takes time and it's very hard. When you finish a real composition, you are very tired, because it's your life that you are putting right down on the sheet paper. Really, you have to put your life in your music. Otherwise, it's not music. It will not sound. So this is also something I really feel now, maybe more than before also. And something that I would like to add, related to our chat, when we started our chat, is something also that I love to repeat. I don't remember the name of the writer, of the novelist. I think he's a Spanish novelist. So he used to say something very true and very nice in Spanish. So I will say it in Spanish, and after I will translate this. He used to say, para ser universal, hay que ser local. Para ser universal, hay que ser local. What does it mean? It means that to bring your message, your music to the universe, of course, with all humility, you have to be local. It means that you must have tradition, any kind of tradition. But you need to have tradition to be universal. You need to come from somewhere to go to touch the universe. So you need to have tradition to touch the universe. Otherwise, it will be very, I think, very difficult. So yeah, for me, composing, it's like really building a house. And when you finished your house, you have to build another one. And then you go like this, again. And just one last thing about what you said, Murat, before. When you compose, you told that sometimes, okay, you always want to change things, even if your composition is finished. But also this, I think it's natural, because I think you have many ideas, and when you compose something, you have also the possibility, you have many possibilities to arrange this composition. But in one time, when you are in one point of your composition, when you approach for sometimes the deadline, when you are proposing something for a movie or a documentary, you have a deadline. So you have to finish your composition, you have to finish the house. And you have to choose between different kinds of arrangements. And sometimes it's just a matter of choice, only this. So at one point, you have to choose between different kinds of arrangements, because you have many possibilities to arrange this composition, for example. So that's what I wanted to say now. Thank you.
Any other comments? Or any questions from the chat?
Well, I was thinking about your question, Murat. I think that it depends, everything it depends by the purpose that you have. I mean, it's not, to compose something, it's not a duty, of course. You can also choose not to do it. There are lots of musicians that just go and improvise, but also improvising. About improvisation, I would like to say this, that improvisation, it's not to improvise. Every improvisation is something that we have inside. So we take some tools that we learn, and with which we grow up with this in our education, like musicians or human beings. And then we decide to use these patterns that we have to do some improvisation. And there is also a kind of a form of improvisation, which is, there are two forms of improvisation. The first is the variation, and the second is the composing while improvising. So a lot of what we know today as composition are just improvisations that were written. This was how more or less the written music starts in Renaissance, because when there was I don't know the English name, I Trattati di Fioritura, where there are something that was played, and there are many ways of playing this. So at a certain point, some musicians started to write, okay, so when you have this cadence, you can do this, or you can do that, or you can do this. But this was improvised, and then they just wrote this kind of improvisation. I'm telling this because, of course, you can also go on a stage and improvise and work on some material, having some, it's like theater. It's like theater. There are some improvising theater with no, I don't know, the dialogues, you know, no, just go and improvise on a scene. And every evening is different. Or there are some other works which are written, like Shakespeare or others, no? Which are, you have to recite the same words. Also, Shakespeare had to choose among a lot of words. So why he chose that words? I mean, because on the purpose. The purpose is the message that you want to give. At a certain point, I think that you write something and you close something and you decide to choose that shape of that composition, because that composition is the expression of something that you are able to concrete, like okay, this is that for me, and I tell you that in this way, and I choose these words. Probably if you think about that thing, the same thing, after 2 years or after 3 years, maybe you choose other words, other notes. But this is, for me, doesn't mean anything, because in that way I wrote that composition, which is the message was that. So the composition is connected with the message. And so following some rules, musical rules, now I talk to, I know how to organize melody, rhythm, and harmony. But I want to say that also if I choose not to follow the rules, because we are not obliged to follow the rules, but also not following the rules, I'm aware of what I'm doing. So I'm aware of what I'm trying to build. And then I choose this. Okay, that's it. When sometimes it happens also to me that, okay, but I wrote this, but this is the other idea. Okay, this is the other idea. I can do this, I can do this other. But then I ask to myself, okay, what I want to say with this? What is the message I want to say? Whatever it takes in my mind, it is or something which should have a shape, a definition. And this helps me to lock the composition.
Yeah, so and what about the story or the spirit, emotions? I mean, we were always talking, or mostly about the format, right? To build a house. But what about story? What story do you tell in your compositions, or how do you put the story? For me, for example, first I have the story. I have a story in mind, and then I try to build up on the story my music. So I have the feeling, as I understood, it's the opposite. You have a building and then you put inside a story, or how does it work? Or is there a story? Is it just a rhythmical structure that gives an effect? One effect can be the power, the energy of the rhythm, or these polyrhythmic effects. So what is the story inside your composition?
Are you asking to me or to someone else? To everybody. So someone else can answer. I talked too much.
I'll say
Tennant's Creek, right, Glen?
yes, because Andrea said Pennis Creek, so I have a story about that, and that's not a common thing for me. Mostly when I'm composing, it's coming out of practicing something, some idea or some material that I'm working on. Often it's a technical issue that I want to solve or become better at or whatever. And out of that activity of exploring, oh, what if I do this or what if I do that on the drum, then ideas start to come and then it becomes a composition. But the idea that you said that there's a story in advance, that's